So today I'm talking to Darren Jahn, who is the Marketing and Communications Manager for Robert Oatley Vineyards. And Robert Oatley Vineyards are, of course, one of our top wineries of Australia for the year 2022. Congratulations on that, Darren, and good to have you on board.
We're chuffed to have slotted up a few spots this year.
Excellent, excellent. Now you're based in Sydney as the marketing and brand manager for Robert Oatley Vineyards. Can you fill us in on the background a little bit? Because Robert Oatley might puzzle a few people because it was always a New South Wales-based company, Mudgee in New South Wales generally. But these days, more of your wine comes from Western Australia, and that's where Larry Cherubino is based, your chief winemaker. And you're producing some fantastic reds out of the Barossa and McLaren Vale these days. So you're a truly modern, pan-Australian wine company.
Yeah, we are quite unusual in that regard. Absolutely. So the Oatley family are Sydney-based and always have been. And their original winery was Rosemount Estate, which was Hunter Valley-based originally. And eventually with a key winery in McLaren Vale in South Australia. Having moved on from the Rosemount days back in 2006 when we kicked off this new business, Robert Oatley Vineyards, we did so off the base of a handful of vineyards that the family kept at Mudgee from the Rosemount days, where they had personal homes and literally personal vineyards and properties. And that became the basis of Robert Oatley Vineyards, particularly after the acquisition of the neighbouring Montrose and Craigmore properties from Pernod Ricard, which had a very large operational winery and a beautiful historic cellar door, which became our production base essentially for the new business. And so, of course, out there, we produce a number of Mudgee-specific wines from the family vineyards there, and they're all marketed under the Mudgee, essentially the historic Mudgee labels that we inherited through the purchase of Montrose and Craigmore, namely Montrose and Craigmore as the labels. And so they continue on today, and we market those primarily through the cellar door operation at Craigmore in Mudgee. They're all small parcel, as I say, Mudgee-specific wines. For the broad market, when we relaunched, we knew we wanted to have our main brand be Robert Oatley, named obviously after Bob Oatley, our founder. And that's the label in particular that I look after for the family. And the philosophy behind the Robert Oatley brand in particular was to really travel far and wide for what we thought were the best regions for each of the key varieties that we wanted to take to market. And so essentially with some very good advice and direction from Larry Cherubino, our director of winemaking, who oversees all of our winemaking, he does so out of Western Australia, where he runs his own eponymous wine company, Larry Cherubino Wines. And he obviously gave us some pretty good advice with regard in particular to Chardonnay, which was the family's key variety to get right once again. Having enjoyed tremendous success and innovation with Chardonnay in the Rosemount days, here we were ready to start afresh, actually with the clean slate in terms of fruit sourcing and wines. And we took the advice of Larry to focus upon Margaret River in Western Australia for our Chardonnay production, our key Chardonnays. And so over time, we've developed those wines and then a portfolio of wines expanding from there with Cabernet Sauvignon out of Margaret River, Riesling in particular out of the Great Southern in Western Australia. And then for the Rhone Valley family of varieties, so Shiraz, Grenache, Mataro, which have been a particular focus of the Oatleys historically with their Rosemount days, having had vineyards and wineries in McLaren Vale and great success with those varieties. We went back to McLaren Vale specifically. Larry, again, has had some pretty good contacts there through his time working for Hardy Wine Company and Horton in Western Australia. but also the Oatley family have some very good grower contacts within McLaren Vale from their time there as well, including one in particular, Chris Hancock, who works for the family and has his own vineyard down there, and we specifically sourced some fruit from his site. So we focus on those Rhone varieties out of McLaren Vale in particular, and that's kind of the core focus for us for Robert Oatley, that Western Australia McLaren Vale mix, with some odds and sods like some Victorian Pinot Noir, and as you correctly acknowledged, a brand new pair of wines out of the Barossa, a Shiraz and a Cabernet in our limited release range, which are a reflection of market demand, both internationally but also domestically. Barossa Shiraz is still the number one listed wine style on wine lists around Australia, and we knew there was a demand for that variety and region. So there you go. That's the Robert Oatley kind of fruit sourcing story.
So, as you mentioned, Margaret River Chardonnay is a big thing with Robert Oatley, as it is with Larry Cherubino himself. And we love those wines. They're lovely, luscious, full-bodied Margaret River style Chardonnays. But the excitement for us this year was the discovery of these Barossa Reds. Are they going to be a regular and ongoing thing? Are you going to produce those every year? They are, I think, a reserve style bottling, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the plan, Huon. They're actually, to be honest with you, they're the second vintage release. The first vintage we sold the whole lot into China, and the original concept and demand for the production of those wines was for the Chinese market. So, as you can imagine, the most popular Australian wine style in China is essentially what you would call a Penfold style of South Australian red, particularly Shiraz and Cabernet. And so we were asked to develop those two wines for the Chinese market, and we did so. We sold the whole of the 2017 production into that market. And of course, by the time we released the 2018, we ran into our international challenges with the Chinese market. And we were ready as well to release it domestically as well, because we weren't at the time 3 years ago when we had the 17, to release it domestically. So we literally took that second vintage to market here in Australia, and we plan that ongoing. And it was particularly off the back of demand for Barossa Shiraz here in the Australian marketplace. We literally had our customers being particularly the on-premise or the restaurant market, pubs and clubs and yacht clubs and sailing clubs and things that we deal with, saying, can you make a Barossa Shiraz? Because that's what we want for our list and what our customers are drinking. And so we've produced it with that market in mind here. And then alongside it, we saw that opportunity for this, what is a really lovely Barossa Cabernet Sauvignon, which you tend to see less of than Shiraz, but we thought there was an opportunity to do the little pigeon pair, and they come up really well, and obviously did very well in your tasting exercises.
Excellent, Darren. Thanks for your time, and thank you again for producing, on behalf of Robert Oatley Wines, for producing such good wine, and congratulations on being one of the Real Review's top wineries of Australia for 2022. And we look forward to seeing you at some of our events around the country coming up. Darren Jahn, Marketing Manager, Robert Oatley Wines, thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.